And we're live. We did it.
All right. Go on.
I'm so proud of us.
Yay.
Well, as more people come in, I say welcome to the very first online live transmission. You're not alone. Razor Cake. This is definitely going to have some growing pains, but thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, Donna.
Yeah, thank you for putting this together. This is really cool.
Yeah, you're really the brains behind this operation.
Yeah.
That's not true. Kurt and Will are the ones that got a hold of me. So they were the brains. I was the brawn.
Well, you know, it's funny because I thought at first you were just going to do some stuff with it. And then, like, you were like, no, I'm taking this on. And I was like, okay, cool.
I'm all for it, man. Like,
yeah.
I love it.
It's like you say that like you don't know me. Of course, if you're like, hey, maybe we could do something like this. And I'd be like, great, I'm going to learn everything about internet broadcasting. And I'm going to turn this into a series.
Yep.
You did great.
Yeah, that was
Thank
nice.
you.
The series idea, too, because I know there's a lot of other people we should get to read on here.
Absolutely. So hopefully we can get all of Razor Cake contributors at some point to do a reading as part of this.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, also credit to you for at least coming up with the format, because, you know, originally I thought, like, let's make it a big festival. Let's get like 20 people on this thing. That'll go well, right?
Yeah.
I don't know about the rest of you, but my attention span is an hour max.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm surprised you can even say an hour. Mine's like 12 minutes.
Well, you know, you come and go with bathroom breaks.
It depends, too, what we're doing. If, like, one of you's being attacked by someone else or, like attacking someone else, like if there's action going on, like a movie, then I'd watch for a long time.
I'm sorry. I just thought like a zine reading where somebody is attacking someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna fly out to LA and just grapple Daryl right now. Just kind of do a running tackle. I get a good head start on that.
Like
I'll buy that plane ticket.
Yeah,
for sure.
It'll take me a couple of days. Just keep live streaming. Just keep it going. I
Yeah.
promise you'll see something.
All right. Do we want to get started?
Sure. Yeah.
I think so.
Okay. So first up is Jennifer Whiteford. Jennifer is a writer, stand-up comedian, and mom who lives in Ottawa, Canada. She's been a Razor Cake contributor since 2005 and currently writes the semi-regular Punk Parenthood for the Sleep Deprived column, which she'll be reading from tonight.
Thank you, Donna. This is the most recent column that I wrote because I had it handy. So, and I just got reading glasses, so everyone can bear with me for doing that. Yeah, the column's called Punk Parenthood for the Sleep Deprived. This one in particular was called All the Young Punks. On the second day of the 2-week Christmas break this year, I noticed that Sid was missing. I checked all his usual hangouts. He wasn't in between my son Milo's pillows. He wasn't under the couch downstairs or on the bench in our front hallway. He hadn't been forgotten in the bathroom or the laundry room or the back seat of the car. No Sid anywhere. Sid is a stuffed monkey. He was purchased by my own mom when I was pregnant with Milo. Sid is from some small batch organic toy company, and he probably cost a bit more than you'd expect a small knit cotton monkey to cost. My mom was excited about her first grandchild. Sid is also undeniably a punk monkey. He has a blue mohawk haircut, a motorcycle jacket, striped pants, and Converse sneakers. When my mom gave him to me for the baby, we hadn't even met yet, she said, "There's also a ballerina, but I thought you'd like this one better." I laughed when she said that, and I still laugh about that story now, but for different reasons. Milo, who begs every year to attend the Nutcracker Ballet at the National Arts Centre here in Ottawa, and who dresses for the occasion in a pink button-down shirt and a bow tie patterned with Disney princesses, would most definitely have preferred the ballerina to the punk monkey. Neither my mom or I knew that at the time. Like most prospective parents, I knew, in theory, that my kids would be their own people with their own likes and dislikes. I even joked about how they might choose to rebel by being normal or conservative. But without having met them, I couldn't shake the strong feeling that they would just like what I liked. Because that was the way I pictured love. My kids would be like me because they would love me, and it was weird to picture it any other way. When Milo was born, he was presented almost immediately with Sid. The monkey didn't have a name then, but Milo took it immediately. Sid finally got his name when Milo was 2 years old. His brother had just been born, and one of the ways that Milo coped with this big change in our lives was to become very connected to a trio of important items. 1 baby blanket, 1 soother, and 1 monkey. When the monkey made the short list, Milo asked me in classic toddler speak, "What dat monkey name?" Sluggishly struggled for a meaningful punk monkey name. I thought of Joe Strummer or Joey Ramone. Unfortunately, the infant that I was holding was already named Joseph, and it seemed too confusing to give the monkey the same name. 2-year-olds don't have a lot of patience, and so my brain groped for another name. Sid, I said quickly. The monkey's name is Sid. It stuck. Sid's been with us for 7 years, and he's been called Sid for 5 of those years. He has the place of honor in Milo's bed every night, even though the baby blanket and soother have long been abandoned. Milo hasn't ever asked me why I named his treasured childhood toy after a shitty bass player who may have stabbed his girlfriend. He doesn't know that he shares a first name with Milo Ackerman, or that his brother's name was chosen in a fit of mild defeat after my husband David and I had been suggesting and vetoing names for an hour as I approached the final stages of that pregnancy. "You love Joe Strummer," my music indifferent husband eventually said. "Let's just name him Joseph." The reason why my kids don't know these facts and stories is not because they're uninterested in pop culture or music or their own family history. We have enough conversations about the Marvel Universe and Lizzo and that time that Uncle Mark peed in the crisper to show that they are in fact very interested in all of those things. They just aren't remotely interested in anything related to punk. Not the music, not the culture, and definitely not the celebrities. It's not because I didn't try. We listened to the Ramones catalog repeatedly when they were babies. Friends gifted them 7 inches and tiny Clash shirts. We read storybooks about punk whenever we could find them. What is Punk and Punk Farm on Tour were 2 of my favorites. The kids were both indifferent and quickly requested Busy Town instead. I played my own records constantly through the first 3 years of their lives. They asked me to turn the music down or off. They tuned out when I talked about it. Milo discovered musical theater and Disney movies and Taylor Swift. Joey acted like his life was complete every time I played folky indie rock. He began asking for the Avett Brothers and the Beatles when given the choice of what to play. Their early wardrobes were made out of baby band t-shirts and tiny stretchy jeans and hoodies, and now Milo wears as many colors as he can every day, and Joey prefers sweatpants and a Spider-Man shirt. They like what they like, and somehow that just moves further and further away from what I like. The one vestige of punk stuff that I threw at them in those early years, the only thing that stuck, is Sid. I knew Milo was very attached to Sid, but I don't think I realized that I was also very attached to Sid until he disappeared at Christmas time. Once we searched the house and determined he wasn't in it, it was no grand mystery where he was. The final day of school before holidays had been a school-wide pajama party, and the kids were allowed to bring one stuffed animal to school with them. Sid had, of course, been selected for that particular honor. In all the extra wild pickup at the end of the day, with the kids all amped up on candy canes and an impending days off, I hadn't thought to double-check Milo's bag before we left. We were all fairly certain that Sid was left somewhere in the school hallway. I acted pretty cool about it, and Milo handled it admirably. Underneath my chill, I was 100% freaking out. I remembered the signs the principal had posted notifying us that all lost and found items would be donated over the break. What if, I wondered, Sid had been deposited in the lost and found and was now in a garbage bag somewhere with the piles of nondescript hoodies, abandoned thermoses, and partnerless mittens on his way to a donation bin. I went as far as doing a search to see if monkeys like him were still sold by the same company that made them 7 years ago. Surprisingly, they were. If anyone needs a punk monkey, hit me up. I bookmarked their web store and tried to stop thinking about it. Would a brand new Sid even be a solution? I don't think we wanted a carbon copy of our monkey. We just wanted the original Sid. The next day, the kids returned to school after a break, and I sent a little note to Milo's teacher in his backpack, letting her know that we were very much interested in locating one lost monkey with blue hair and striped pants. I talked myself out of calling the school halfway through the day to check on the results of the search. When I finally arrived to pick up the kids from aftercare, I asked Milo immediately, "Did you find Sid?" When he told me yes, I gave an involuntary yelp so loud that Milo actually jumped in surprise. Later, he told me, "I guess you were just really happy that we found him." Hell yes, I was happy. And when I thought about it, my happiness wasn't because Sid was connected to this culture that I love and feel at home in. My happiness was all because Milo had his special monkey back. Sid's connection to punk has been thoroughly eclipsed by the love that our family has for him. He's no longer that random punk monkey that my mom selected 7 years ago, just like Milo's no longer that anonymous baby that I was carrying around. Meeting your children when they're born, and then meeting them again and again each day as they grow into who they were meant to be, is the true joy of parenting. It's something that I couldn't have imagined before I became these boys' mom. I don't really give a shit that they'll probably never want to talk about the Slits with me or make a zine or volunteer at a DIY music festival. They're going to do awesome stuff on their own, stuff that matters to them. The core qualities that I love about the punk scene, being yourself, helping others, critical thinking, making joyful noise, are all things that they're already really good at, regardless of whether or not they care where their own names came from. On Friday, I took a photo of the two of them walking off an escalator on our way to the dentist's office. Milo in a pink shirt, covered in a pattern of unicorns and rainbows and candy. Perhaps not the best choice for the dentist's appointment, but fight the power. Neon green jeans, purple boots, a rainbow tie-dyed bandana around his neck. Joey in sweats, his hair, which he is growing now with the clear and somber goal of having a man bun, hanging in his eyes with his mouth open, in the midst of a description of something that the Hulk can or can't do. I looked back at the picture a dozen times over the rest of the day, amazed by these kids who I'm lucky enough to parent. We don't like the same stuff, but we do really like each other. And as an added bonus, they don't care about touching my records with their sticky ass hands. And that's true love. Oh, and I have Sid. That's the monkey.
That's so cool.
Sid!
It is. It's Sid.
Hey!
He came to visit.
I was going to ask if we could see him, so I'm glad you have him there.
There he is. He's a little worse for wear. He gets washed a lot, but that's him. He's head.
Also, I can totally relate to not letting your kids have their sticky hands all over your records. Not having
They're
them.
up there instead of this.
Yeah.
Mhm. I put doors in my record shelf. That and my cat, so my cat doesn't eat them too, because he likes to do that.
Yeah.
What's the deal with Uncle Mark pissing in the crisper though?
It's a great family story. It's when my husband was little, he and his cousins and his brother were coming back on a really long trip from Niagara Falls or something like that. And they were all sleeping in the car. And when they got home, he was hungry and had to pee. And so he went and opened the fridge, but then started peeing into the crisper of the fridge. And my husband's cousin, who's super loud, went out on the lawn and screamed at the top of his lungs "Mom, Mark's peeing in the fridge!" And the whole neighborhood heard, and it's Uncle Mark's big legacy.
Wow.
In our family.
Now the world knows.
Yeah. I hope he doesn't mind me telling that story.
Too late.
Yeah, it's maybe my kid's favorite story about Uncle Mark.
Hey Donna, do we got questions or comments or anything fun we should address
Well,
before we jump in?
I don't know about questions, but there's a lot of friends here. Billy's here,
Hey,
Matt
Billy.
Hart's here, Kayla Greet's here, Juan's here, and I only found out it was Juan because his username is GetBent80. There's so many friends. Thank you all for watching.
Mhm.
All right. Kurt, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
We'll move on to our next one. So, Kurt Morris lives in Boston, Massachusetts with his cat, Ophelia, who is here. Hopefully she makes an appearance. His writing has appeared at Vice, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, The Mighty, and other mental health websites. He's written various music and personal zines since the mid-90s and has written for Razor Cake since 2005. Earlier this year, he self-published his first book, My War, which is great, and you should buy it, which is both a memoir and a look at Black Flag's 1984 album of the same name. Find him online at kurtmorris.net.
All right. So I'm just going to read mine off my computer. May, this month, is Mental Health Awareness Month. So I decided that I was going to read my essay that I wrote for issue number 106 that came out in 2018. It was an issue that I put together on punks and mental health. And it was a labor of love that took me like 6 months. And it was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. And I wrote an essay to kind of go about like the introduction of it. So it's a little bit about my experience, but I took out some sections here from it, and that's what I'm going to read to you. So it's called My War, My Path to Mental Wellness. Right about the time I turned 13 in 1992, depression made an appearance in my life. I'd always been an anxious kid, and I stressed myself out with worry, but depression was different. It made me irritable. It tired me out. It caused me to doubt my self-worth and purpose, and generally hate my life. Depression stayed with me for a long time. Back in 2001, I received a diagnosis of bipolar II disorder. This is kind of like the bipolar disorder you may know of, but instead of the severe episodes of mania and depression that you probably know about in bipolar I have episodes of depression and then just irritability. My periods of mania were often accompanied by needing less sleep, racing thoughts, and overactivity, so I would take on a lot of projects at once. Besides my bipolar II diagnosis, I also discovered I had rapid cycling, which meant I felt highs and lows a few times in a month, or a week, or even a day. Most individuals with bipolar disorder, either type 1 or 2, will have a bout of depression or mania that lasts for months, and I was experiencing that within a week or a day. So I first went to therapy in college back in 2000 when I was 21. A few weeks before my graduation, I went through a breakup with my girlfriend, my first girlfriend. I was also scared at possibilities of life without my usual routine of classes, and I attempted to kill myself, but I survived. And after graduation, I moved back to my hometown in Indiana to live with my parents and try to get my head on straight. I began to see a therapist on a regular basis, and my psychiatrist put me on different medications, changing things up every few months to find what would work. Side effects were prevalent: not sleeping enough or sleeping too much, lowered or increased sex drive, weight gain, weight loss. I was working 20 hours a week doing customer service at a newspaper and putting together my music website. I was interviewing bands I admired, writing music reviews, and overseeing a staff of 20 writers. But somehow the manic side of my bipolar disorder kept me afloat. Things felt stuck though, both in my head and in my life, and I knew I needed to make changes and move on, but I suffered so much from anxiety. It was difficult to figure out what to do and where to go. And then one day my therapist suggested I check out graduate school for library science. And I took it up almost as a dare. A few months later, in early 2003, I moved to Bloomington, Indiana, ready to start a new chapter. And relationships during this time, they faltered and failed quite a bit. It was almost impossible to find a stable connection with anyone. Friendships were awkward. I had that doubt that anyone would actually want to befriend me. And dating relationships often had friction, and they were very argumentative. And my instability did not make me a very pleasant person to be around. And then after graduation from library school and a year working a shitty job, I moved to Seattle. And I had friends there, but I worked a job doing data entry that just, I think we've all had those jobs, they just crush your spirit. And mine led to a lot of depression and suicidality. I started seeing a therapist just basically to complain about how my work was pointless. But despite my attempts to find other work, I just kept striking out. I felt like I was doing the same when searching for stability with my mental health. And although I loved living in a big city, I couldn't figure a way out of my horrible job. So I did what I did before. I applied to graduate school. It's a recurring theme. I got into a university in Boston in 2008 and moved here where I live now without knowing anyone. It was a tough change because I didn't always feel like I had many people to connect with, even within my own cohort. And despite moving across the country, my depression wasn't shaken off. I was still seeing a therapist, but thankfully my medications, they were becoming consistent. So after graduating in 2010, I found a job and settled into Boston. I started dating a woman whom I had a really good relationship with. And then with my psychiatrist's guidance, we tried to take me off one of my medications, and it didn't go so well. And I began to have thoughts of killing myself, and so I checked myself into a psychiatric facility. And my girlfriend at the time was there with me, and she was great. And then I was discharged after a week, and I returned to work as well as to what I thought was a good relationship. Yet a few months later, my girlfriend dumped me, and I didn't deal very well with it. And again, I attempted to kill myself. So I went to a different psychiatric hospital and had an amazing experience. I felt a lot of love amongst my peers and their families, and there was a lot of growth on my part. And I received a reminder of the coping skills I'd learned over the years through therapy and reading self-help books. So contrary to what some people may believe, hospitalization, at least in the right facility, can be really beneficial. It also requires a willingness to change, and that's different for each person. So when I checked myself into the hospital in 2011 for the second time, I came out knowing, okay, I want to live. And I'm not alone in struggling with mental illness. Millions of people suffer from schizophrenia, borderline personality disorder, anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and a lot of other mental health issues. In fact, according to the National Institute of Mental Health, which is part of the US government's Department of Health and Human Services, nearly 1 in 5 adults live with a mental illness. That's approximately 45 million people over the age of 18. So the more people who speak up on how to create healthy mental wellness, the less of a stigma there will be. All too often, it's the stigma that drives people underground with sharing their experiences and prevents them from receiving the help that they really need. And so I knew a few years ago when I first started working on this, that there had to be a way to talk about mental illness through Razor Cake. As you guys probably know, the punk scene is not immune to mental illness. If anything, my experience has shown me it seems to attract more people who deal with anxiety, depression, obsessive compulsive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, all those kind of things. One of punk's many strengths is its ability to be straightforward with its thoughts, emotions, and ideas. Thus, it's not really difficult to find a band singing about mental illness. I mean, think about it. Since its first days in the 1970s, Joey Ramone singing about electroconvulsive therapy and gimme gimme shock treatment. Keith Morris on Fix Me yelled about his brain needing some work, Black Flag. But mental illness, it affects a lot more people than just somebody who's writing lyrics for a band. People who write comics or zines, who put on shows, who run record labels, and have their own punk podcast can all suffer from poor mental health. Schizophrenia or an eating disorder, don't care who you are. At the end of the day, though, if there's any message I want to get across here, it's that there is hope. I don't think any of us would deny that life is really difficult. In fact, it's downright fucking horrible at times. And sometimes you may think the bad times outweigh the good. But there are people who care and people who love us, whether we believe it or not. There are people who would be sad if we weren't around. But most importantly, our existence is good because we provide joy and happiness to others and to the world at large. Whether we want to believe that or not, it's true. I don't want to extinguish that in myself, and I don't really like seeing it extinguished in anyone else. I'm amazed at the number of times I thought things were hopeless. And sometimes it was something as little as eating a meal or getting some sleep, and I was able to turn things around. So if you're hearing this tonight and you're feeling overwhelmed or anxious or depressed, any of that kind of stuff, I'd encourage you to go through the steps at the following website. And yes, this is the real URL. It's called youfeellikeshit.com. That's what it is. It has a really good walkthrough. I've used it before when I feel really overwhelmed. It's very helpful. And if nothing else, if you're feeling depressed or suicidal, or you know somebody who is, and you want to speak with somebody, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. That's 1-800-273-8255. 1-800-273-8255, or youfeellikeshit.com. Thank you guys very much. And I also want to say I've also returned back to grad school again, this time for social work. And my hope is that I'm going to be able to help some people with these kind of issues in the future. So yeah, going back to school again. Like I said, it's a recurring theme. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, that was great. I think what you're talking about here today is really important, and I'm really grateful that you're doing that, because I know there are a lot of people out there who are struggling silently, and to have someone else talk about it openly and in the way that you're talking about it, I know means a lot to them, and they may not be here to say it right now, or might be thinking it or not sharing it, but thank you for that.
Yeah, and it's something, I don't know, did you guys ever found that like in punk, you just come across a lot more like anxious and depressed people? That's always been my experience with it.
Yeah, we're all fucked up in our own ways, man.
I don't know, maybe it's just where I grew up in the Midwest. People are like that. But...
No, it's everywhere. It's every punk scene.
All right.
Yeah, definitely. As somebody who does not, who's, privileged enough to not have any mental illness, I had to learn about it firsthand from my friends in punk.
Mm. Yeah.
Like you.
No, thanks. All right.
I haven't seen any questions, but I have seen a lot of friends in the chat just screaming at each other. But my favorite thing that happened was Matt Hart, I think it was a typo where he said incurable degrees instead of incurable disease.
Oh.
And I was like, yeah, no, that's us. That's what we do. We just keep going back to school and be like, I'll just get another master's degree.
Yep.
That's a band name right there.
Man. Oh, Pure That's so good. It's just the best.
Just
Matthew
academia forever.
Continual student.
I am. It's like the one thing I'm good at in life. So.
Yeah, that was a bummer for me to find out that I was really good at school and really bad at like life. Whoops.
Yeah. It's like I hate working, but I love learning. So it's like
Yes.
Donna's
How's everybody
doing
in quarantine, by the way?
That's another reason I shared, because I know there's a lot of people dealing with like mental health issues during this time as well.
Definitely bringing a lot of stuff to light that people aren't able to hide from anymore.
I'm great.
What's the secret, Will?
Say that again.
What's the secret?
Coping mechanisms. I binge a lot of video games and anything else I can get my hands on. Just like it's not happening, I'm good, man.
Yeah.
I just threw myself into my second Final Fantasy game this month. I am doing great.
Are you playing it right now?
What's that?
Are you playing it right now?
No. I was going to wait till after this is over.
Yeah. Thank you for that courtesy.
Yeah, no, I put my phone down. I cleared my desk so I wouldn't have any distractions. I'm here for you guys tonight.
Jennifer, how are you doing?
Oh, she's on mute now.
There. Okay. You can hear. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did I do it? All right. I'm super overwhelmed was what I said before I realized I'd forgotten to mute. Like I forget everything right now. I don't think it's good for anybody though. Like I was talking to a friend last week who lives by himself and isn't working because his job is not functioning. And there are so many days where I'm like, oh, I'd love to live alone and not be working right now. Like that seems great, but he doesn't have anyone to talk to, and he doesn't have anyone to hug him, and he, doesn't have people around him to distract him, and so it just seems like it's crummy no matter who you are. And I'm just super tired because I'm trying to work a full-time job that's still pretty active while looking after my kids. I feel guilty because I'm not focused on my job, and then I feel guilty when I'm not focused on my kids, and then it's just tiring. It sucks. I'm not as worried as maybe I would be if I was somewhere where things were worse. Like, I don't know. I worry about all you Americans, to be honest.
Yeah.
It seems really bad. And it's not great here, but it's not quite that bad.
Yeah, we're in the thick of it here in Boston. It's not good right now.
My governor.
Yeah, Utah's not great.
Yeah.
My governor's complete denial about the whole thing. Opening early, all that.
There you go.
Where are you located?
Jacksonville,
Oh,
Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah.
Utah's the same as Florida. Everything's open.
Everything like totally normal.
Not my job, which is the university. So schools know, but it's up to each business to determine how they want to go about things. And so when they announced that we would be going to threat level orange, which gave me some great 9/11 flashbacks. When they did that on May 1st, a bunch of bars opened at midnight.
Oh my gosh.
I think I saw stories about that.
Yeah. So, and like I live by the college, so there's just parties constantly outside that I can hear.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're all gonna die.
Yeah.
Right. My neighbors are like having barbecues and like sharing pizza pies together. Their kids all running around on the block, and it's like, I feel weird that they're the ones who are still socializing, and I'm the one stuck inside trying to quarantine. And I don't know, like I'm both frustrated with them, and I feel like also like I'm the one being antisocial, like I'm doing something wrong because they're all having a good time still.
it's hard to explain to kids too. If there's a bunch of
Yeah.
kids playing, like, I mean, here everything is pretty much shut down. There's been very minimal incidents of people protesting or trying to thwart the shutdown, but people are kind of losing it because it's been like it started around our spring break, which is mid-March, and schools have been shut since then. Businesses have been shut since then. It basically we're under a state of emergency, and it's been that way since then. And it's doesn't seem like it's going to let up a lot in the next little while. So I don't even know. I understand people freaking out though.
Some bummer meat, man. Bummer meat.
I was gonna say, and now on that note, Bill, you ready?
Here's more bummers.
Ready for the double stack of the bummer meat. All right.
All right. Will Kenneth has been a web columnist for Razor Cake since 2018. That was the entire bio he sent me. So I added, he's also a wonderful person who made this live reading possible. And I personally want to thank him for being so great.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. Well, I didn't want to go on for too long about me. I don't know if I'm the most exciting person. And I think short bios are a lot cooler than longer bios. So there you go. All right. So I'm going to read my second submission to Razor Cake. It's called Confronting Abuse. Small acts of empathy can make a world of difference. So when I made the trip to Target, I was expecting to leave with maybe some red vines and a cheap Spider-Man t-shirt, not a memory of witnessing domestic abuse that would stay with me for the rest of my life. When I stepped in line to check out, I glanced at the pair checking out in front of me. A box of tampons sat alone on the conveyor belt. Standing across from the cashier was an older man, and standing outside the check-in line just beyond the cashier was a solemn teenage girl. Her face was puffy and red, like she'd been bawling her eyes out right before coming inside. Her gaze remained fixed on the floor. Flashing red warning signs started howling in my brain. What person would want to be seen in public like that, I thought. Instinct told me something was fundamentally wrong with the relationship between the man and the young woman. It also felt instantly familiar, My father often made no regard for my own emotions. He treated my emotions like they inconvenienced him. He used to put me down to cashiers and tellers to boost his own deflated self-esteem before I convinced him to stop. At this point in my life, I didn't know it was abuse, but I was slowly realizing that I deserved better. If I was reading the situation right, I knew the man would feel compelled to say something derogatory about the young woman to boost his ego, and I would be ready to confront him. As I suspected, the man started gesturing towards me and the cashier, strangers to him. "Can you believe I have to buy something like this?" he said, with the inflection of someone telling a joke, deflecting his own discomfort in the guise of incredulity. The young woman's gaze remained fixed on the floor, and the cashier said nothing. "Yeah, it's totally normal to be buying tampons," I said to him, matching the man's joking inflection while emphasizing the words "totally normal." I want to emphasize the normalcy of men buying tampons and being comfortable with them. Too often men treat menstrual I'm trying to change the words here because I used the phrase feminine hygiene products, but I want to be trans inclusive. So menstrual products, like they're an affront to their masculinity. Thank you. After I spoke, he reeled back in discomfort and became viscerally uncomfortable. I didn't say a word. He didn't need to. His reaction confirmed my instinct that he had been taking it out on the young woman earlier. The woman's eyes met mine for only a brief moment. She was shocked. I wanted to flash her a confident smile in the hope that I could tell her, "I understand what you're going through, and one day you can be free of him, and you'll be okay," without having to say it. I think I did manage to smile, but that moment broke my heart, and I don't know if I managed one at all. Her gaze returned to the floor, and as the cashier started bagging the tampons, a million thoughts raced through my mind. How can I help her? Could I walk up to her and ask if she was okay? Would she want to use my phone to call a friend? Could I pass her a note quickly scribbled on a Target receipt? But the ultimate one, could I even talk to her without putting her in more danger? The answer was no, so I stayed quiet and kept an eye on them as they were leaving. As they started walking away, I hoped the man would head to the bathroom, giving me a chance to discreetly talk to her, but no detours. They walked out the door, and I never saw them again. Since starting my own journey of healing from domestic abuse, my mind plays a story almost daily. No matter how much I tell myself I did as much as I could to help, I still feel like a miner panning for gold in the same sandbox, searching for overlooked kernel of truth or a solution I missed. Recently, I learned that I did end up helping her through my act of kindness that day, even if I couldn't protect her in the end. Confronting domestic abuse in public space is tricky, especially when you're witnessing it happen to someone you don't know. Your options are often not great. Modeling empathetic behavior is your least intrusive way to help someone. You may be in a position where you can't stop the abuse, but you can at least show the victim what healthy relationships and communication looks like. Expressing gratitude or showing affection are simple gestures that can make a difference. After speaking with my counselor, I learned I helped the young woman buying tampons by showing her that adult men, even strangers, can show her respect even if her father figure cannot. I showed her that men do have the ability to treat buying menstrual products like a routine part of life. I too had people in my life who helped me by modeling these positive behaviors, so I can attest that it works. In late 2011 to early 2012, I moved to Jacksonville for work temporarily and was staying with my girlfriend's parents, now in-laws. Rachel, my girlfriend, now wife, felt conflicted. On one hand, I was offered my first job since starting grad school part-time almost a year ago. There we go again with the grad school. The job was a part-time internship scheduled to last a few months. I would make enough money to cover my bills, but I couldn't afford my own place. When it was over, I would go home to Tampa. On the other hand, Rachel was afraid that if I stayed with her parents, it could lead to irreparable conflict between me and them. The only way to make the job work was to stay with them. Fortunately, they're happy to have me. And in my head, I thought, what could be worse than my dad calling me a fucking asshole all the time, right? So years of emotional and verbal abuse taught me some survival skills. Withdrawing emotionally, avoiding attention, etc., I knew at least I would be fine. After the first few weeks, I was shocked that Rachel's parents never started mistreating me. They never stopped offering me dinner every night or inviting me to do activities with them. We had a few disagreements, but it never resulted in insults or manipulation. Of all the lessons I learned in grad school, I never expected to learn that someone else's parents could treat me better than my own father. I don't think that was something I would have fully understood until I stayed with my in-laws. In fact, my encounter with a young woman buying tampons happened while I was living with my in-laws. Staying with them may have given me the tools I needed to stand up to the person abusing her. Of course, you don't have to be idle while abuse happens. You can take action either call Department of Child Services or dial 911 in an emergency, but I would recommend caution with those. Even calling DCF could get police involved. Consider the family situation first. If you're dealing with someone whose residency status might be in jeopardy, or if police discover criminal activity, the police could put the abuser in jail, which might end up taking away a source of income for the family. You may not want to be responsible for putting the family in a different kind of jeopardy than the one they were in before. On the other hand, DCF's goal is not to break up families. They'd rather ensure that parents get the skills they need to not be abusive. On top of that, just having DCF monitor families may be enough to stop abuse once those abusers know someone is watching them. Unfortunately, if you see abuse happen to strangers, there's not much DCF can do to stop that. You'd have to know who they are, where they live to report it. None of these are perfect solutions, and any of these actions include some level of risk of making things worse. I'd love to tell you catch-all solutions exist, but they don't. You have to use your judgment. The best thing you can do is to model sympathy and empathy and show patience to strangers and people you love equally. You may help someone more than you could ever know. Thank you.
Yay!
Yeah.
There's always a delay.
It's like, why is everyone quiet?
I don't know, Will. Your ideas of sympathy and empathy, those sound too radical for me.
Too much free man.
Left field shit.
Did I not bum you out enough?
Yeah.
Just the perfect amount.
Yeah, the perfect amount of bumming us out.
Yeah.
Try to
Daryl's
make
going to
it-
bring
Oh, yep. I would try to make it at least a little positive at the end. Like, hey, here's some stuff you can do.
There you go.
Still, really important work. Will, Kurt, both of you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
There's a lot of fun stuff happening over here. It's so many Razor Cake contributors in the chat. Marcos, Ty, Art, Mike. Everybody's here. Oh, it's great. It's so great to see all of you. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
If that counts. I mean, you logged on to YouTube, and that means a lot right now because we're all stuck in our houses.
For sure.
When is the next big Razor Cake gathering post-vaccine?
Post-vaccine.
Is there a post-vaccine?
Yeah. My new life.
Oh no, it's our life now. All right, are you ready to send us on home, Daryl?
Yeah, sure, let's do it.
All right. If you didn't already know, Daryl Gussin is a writer and musician who's been awkwardly standing around at punk shows for the last 20 years. At some point in his late teens, he thankfully decided to become a little more productive and has been working on zines and playing in bands consecutively since then. Doing time in such groups as Marriage Materials, Folk Nest, God Equals Genocide, and many more, as well as being integrally involved in Razor Cake magazine for almost a decade and a half. His writing revolves around the honest, bittersweet, and ultimately triumphant aspects of DIY punk. Community over commercialism, create and destroy. He's also 6'4", and he's my best friend.
Like a couple months ago, I never needed a bio for anything. And then when we did the UK tour, me and Donna did like a reading tour of the UK, I was asked to prepare a bio for it. And that is the only reason I have that. Can anyone else hear anything? Can you hear anything?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to read the editorial of the new issue, 116, which just got dropped in the mail on Tuesday. So if you're expecting it, it's on its way. That's, depending on the U.S. Postal Service being a functioning organization. But I have faith in them for now. The piece is called Be Where You Can. Nothing buckles this stony-eyed exterior like a genuine act of solidarity. If I see a group of people working together for the well-being of another, I immediately feel the sides of my eyes begin to moisten up and that empty, shaky feeling in my stomach. In a world that has been partitioned out and divided by national borders to property lines to mental barriers, when we're able to see past these constructed obstructions and focus on the other actors in this global play, we not only see how minuscule our role is, but how important we are and how we're all connected. The impact of an international health crisis will be measured by its damage. For some, the human loss will be eclipsed by the monetary loss, and for a few fuckheads, the human loss will be a footnote to their financial gains. But there's also the purely qualitative measure of community participation, human connection, and the building of cooperative relationships in the face of a global emergency. I'm not talking about those videos of people singing from their balconies in Italy, because all I could think about when I saw those was someone with a fucking fever in one of those other apartments wishing everyone would shut the fuck up. But here are two examples that continue to inspire me. 1. We are witnessing the largest international collaboration of research in the history of the world. Scientists have completely shed nationalistic propriety and are working together in a way that's never been seen before. I can't imagine jingoism is a common trait in any researcher worth their weight in Pyrex, but if new lines of communication are being developed and new relationships being established, once this awful situation is behind us, this may further lead to scientific discoveries. Bust down those walls and share what you got in the name of a more well-informed planet. No one is going to lose from that. 2. On a local note, a couple times a week, I still walk to Razorcake HQ to take care of stuff I can't do from home. I walk past a local middle school, which hosts a grab-and-go site. Every morning, people line up in their cars and receive a bag of food from one of the dozen volunteers who are working there at any given time. This is not only for kids who rely on school meal programs, but is open to anyone who is hungry. Little do these volunteers know that 6'4" goon walking on the other side of the street is quietly tearing up and thanking them for their commitment to their community. I daydream about people who see each other every morning, their faces obscured by protective masks, but months later recognize each other's eyes in the grocery store and embrace. I do a quick head count and have sworn to myself that if it ever looks like the numbers of volunteers are dwindling, I'll sign up. So far, they're going strong with 12 volunteers a day. By the time this is printed, processed, and delivered to you, these words could be totally obsolete. They could be trite and microscopic in their meaning, and realistically, I'm typing them without any certainty that they'll be printed, processed, or delivered at all. But I can't go through the day expecting the worst possible outcome. I can be prepared, and I can follow the health guidelines, and I can operate with concern, but I'm not going to let apocalyptic levels of fear prevent me from doing this work. This is a truly tragic moment for the whole world, and we need each other now more than ever. And that's it. Razorcake 116. That was written in early April, so it's bound to feel dated and of its time, but hopefully something to help.
Yay, Daryl.
Yay!
That was great.
Yeah, that was dope.
I also get super teary at like triggers like that of like people helping out when it's of no personal interest to them at all. Like that's like if that's in a movie or whatever, somebody goes out of their way to help someone else, and I can't even take it. That's something that totally gets me every time.
Exactly.
Daryl's a big softie underneath it all.
Oh, the biggest.
I love it. I also want to tell everybody that it was Daryl's idea for us to all dress up like this and look nice. But I want you to know that underneath this shirt, I'm wearing a Big Destroyer shirt.
I did get a text from a friend who was watching, and she was like, "Why are all these guys wearing ties?"
Daryl, I thought you were joking when you said we should all dress up. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to get out my 909 earrings to make sure everybody knows exactly who I am.
It's the first show. It's a special occasion. I feel like people maybe dressing up, maybe they should do it every show. I don't know if they want to.
Nice. I don't mind.
So,
It was fun. This was a great idea.
Yay.
I don't wear clothes for like most days, so like this motivates me to like make myself look good.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay, but like none of us are wearing pants, right?
No.
I got pajamas.
Okay.
I am. Yeah.
Oh, you went all out.
Yeah.
Look ready for
Yeah,
like a job interview or something.
You're hired.
Cats.
Oh, Ophelia.
What's Donna? What's coming up with more episodes of the show?
I have no idea because I didn't think this was going to work.
Well, now we got a plan for number 2.
Hey, now it's work. So I'll, if everybody who's in the chat, all of you are basically Razor Cake contributors. If any of you are interested, reach out to me. We'll start to work out some more of these. And I can also teach other people how to do this so I don't have to do it every time. Also, I just got LASIK, so everything is really blurry. So I'm glad I did it.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed that you could pull it up.
She's a master.
I do my best.
Thank you for putting it together. And thanks everybody for watching. This was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
I'm really glad that you guys were here, and glad we could all share this together, and hope to see some of you doing this and whenever we do this again.
Yeah.
I mean, this was an international reading. Thank you, Jennifer.
No problem.
Bi-coastal international.
Yeah, I felt self-conscious when I was reading statistics. They were all U.S. and I was like, I don't know mental health statistics in Canada for Jennifer. Sorry.
It's okay. We got issues too. It's universal.
And on that note, goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Hang on.